Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Shekinah, aka the Purpose Therapist, and this is Support the Journey. This is just a mini series to help us navigate all the different things we need to get to our journey and through our journey to joy. So today we're talking about the different types of grief, right? And so I basically want to review some notes here, provide you guys with some extra support and some skills that you can use so that you can identify what type of grief you might be experiencing and what to do when it comes up. Okay, let's get started. So the first one, the one that we all know about, is normal grief, right? This is like the average someone passing away or losing someone. This is typically what everybody knows and understands as grief, right? But there's so many other versions, all right? And so that's what we're going over today. The next one is anticipatory grief. So there is grief associated with preparing for the change or the passing on of someone. This is typically what you might experience with somebody having someone you love is dealing with a terminal illness, or when you are preparing to move or for a major life change yourself. All these things, there's like a grief of what used to be and preparing for that grief of what used to be, right? The next is disenfranchised grief, and this is the one that I thought was the most important, because just because somebody else or the general public might not understand the severity of the pain you might be feeling from a loss of something or someone doesn't mean that it's not real. So this is typically when we experience the loss of a pet, or the loss of a job, or the loss of a certain something that might have meant something to your relationship that you might have had. Everyone else around you might not get it, but I promise you, it's still valid, it still matters, and it's still important. So always remembering that experience. The next one is ambiguous grief, and this is typically like when we're dealing with, unfortunately, when there's a person that is there physically but not the same way as you remember them. This can be when the loss of or transition as the nature of a relationship might take place. Like if this was someone that you were married to and then you end up being divorced from this person, they can still be around, will still be somebody you see often, but there's an ambiguous grief around like the physical presence of the person and they're not there. This also happens when you have someone that might be physically here, but a mental ailment or something like that might not allow them to mentally be present as a way that we know them. This might happen when we're experiencing the relationship with someone or a family member that might be dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's or something to that effect. It impacts the way that we have our relationship. There's a grief that takes place when that shift in our relationship has taken place, okay? And then lastly, there's mass grief, right? And this is typically when wherever you're grieving is coming out another way. And I also think this one is just as important, right? You can be grieving and it looked like something completely different. I personally had this experience. Tons of clients I know have had this experience where it's like literally it's everything. You're overworking, or you're very angry all of a sudden, or you're feeling really low, you're not interested in the same things. It's all mass grief. What you're actually doing is grieving, and it's showing up in other behaviors. So you have to be super cognizant of these things. So what I want to talk about today was just the different ways to help us navigate what type of grief you might be experiencing. And I'm going to say it before, I'm going to say it every time. It's my favorite thing to say. You have to self-reflect. If you're not taking the time to take breaks in between your day-to-day, if you're running on autopilot and ignoring yourself, you're never going to be able to pick up on whatever this is. You're just going to keep running through. And before you know it, you would have bypassed all these things that are very, very, very important, major changes that are taking place in your life and showing up in every other areas. And we don't know about it because we didn't acknowledge the grief that we're experiencing. So I hope you take these different items and you're able to review and identify for yourself, like, okay, let me take some time. What changes have taken place, right? That could be the first question we ask. What's different? What am I looking at that's different? What are some things that I've noticed that I've built towards and they don't seem to be working out like I need them to? Or what are the relationships that have taken some shifts, right? All this stuff helps us understand what we might be grieving. And so then, as I said before, and I'll say again, it's really important that you partner with a mental health professional to help you navigate like the ebbs and flows of everyday life. That's super duper important. So you can have that consistent support while you're navigating these experiences. But then there's also the idea of you being able to go back and reach what are the things that help me, what adds value to my life. So this is what I mean: making sure that you have already in your arsenal what brings you joy, what brings you peace, what helps you organize your day. Who are the people, who are your support team, the support people that help encourage you, all those things while you navigate these different forms of grief. But the only way you're going to be able to, the most important thing to navigate this is to take time for you. Don't think about what anybody else is saying about your experience. Oh, you should get over that. You shouldn't be worried about that. It's just a pet. No. Take your time. on your own, separate yourself, and identify, how do I actually feel about this? This just took place. I've just had this major change. This shift is happening. What's going on? And what this might look like physiologically is like not being able to sleep as much, or I'm sorry, not physiologically, but physically. Not being able to sleep as much, not being able to, maybe loss of appetite, finding yourself being more irritable than usual, not being interested in the same things. All those things can be signs that maybe you might be grieving or going through some type of form of grief. And so just because somebody hasn't passed away doesn't mean you're not grieving, as evidenced by these things that I just listed. So what you want to do is like take some time, when you get a chance, sit down, journal with yourself. Like, let me do some self-reflection. What do I need? What is happening right now? What's changed? And how can I start to show up a little bit better? The biggest thing I want you to take away from this space is that nobody can judge or say anything about what is causing you pain. You are valid. How you're feeling matters. What your experience is, whatever your experience is real, and it's important. Don't let the opinions and thoughts of other people discredit what phase you might be in related to these experiences and what type of grief you might be experiencing. It doesn't matter if it happened 2 months ago or 20 years ago. Sometimes these things, they hurt. And unless you acknowledge that thing and are aware of it, it can continue to fester. So I'm hoping that this helps you to be able to identify different types of grief, different things that could be causing you some symptoms of grief, and how you can start to show up a little bit better for yourself. This is Shekinah, aka the Purpose Therapist, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Make sure to, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you can get some extra support from our website as well. Okay? Bye.